Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final edition of breaking down the NFL divisions. And preseason is right around the corner, so it's time to finally get to the NFC West. It's the final division for all of this. So if you enjoy, subscribe, leave a like, really appreciate it, and let's get right into it. We begin with the team that underperformed the last season in the San Francisco 49ers. There isn't a lot to say about the offseason the Niners had, as there wasn't really one in the first place. It started off with trading Deebo Samuel, and from there, it wasn't a whole lot being done that really stands out to me. They bring in Russell Gage and Demarcus Robinson to try and combinedly replace the production that Deebo Samuel had. But it's still a receiver room that is going to be missing Deebo, I think, in some capacity. Obviously, he's kind of on the tail end of his career, but he's still a type of player that you kind of wish you had in some capacity again. Saran Neal was brought in to be a leader for that special teams room. He did a fantastic job in Miami the past few years, and he gets to do that in San Francisco now. But they did lose quite a bit in free agency, and they don't really feel like they signed enough replacements, and saying that you feel like is a stretch. Their first 5 draft picks, though, was all used on the defense side of the ball, as that's where I feel like they lost the most talent. So getting those new guys in is definitely going to be important. It's just can they match the production that was there from last year and from 2023? I'm really not sure. Michael Williams, Alfred Collins, Nick Martin, Upton Stout, and CJ West all going to be asked to make up that production. All of them are going to play just fine for the 49ers. I'm just, again, not sure if it's going to be enough this season. Jordan Watkins was their first offensive player selected and going to be a pretty solid addition to that receiver room. Jordan James out of Oregon was a selection made with the Washington pick they got from trading Deebo Samuel. So some pressure there on James to kind of have an impact with this team. I don't expect a massive impact. It's a fifth round pick running back to the 49ers. He could be a really damn good player and fit that system well. Time will tell on that end. Of all the teams in the run-in of potentially going worst to first, I will say though, the Niners are probably the one I'm most confident in saying that they can go worst to first, but only time will tell. They're gonna need Purdy to stay healthy, gonna really need CMC to stay healthy. And do they still have some of that magic that 2023 had, as quite a few things went their way that season? Can they get that same luck? Again, only time will tell. Next up, the Arizona Cardinals is the wild card of all wild card teams this season in terms of, they could either be a really, really good team or a team that kind of falls flat. And I have zero idea how they're going to look come season's end this season. They bring back Michael Carter and they sign Donovan Knight after Donovan Knight had a year gap. And these are moves that are fine for the running back room, but don't move the needle at all. Calais Campbell is back and is potentially a retirement tour for him, coming off of a fantastic year in Miami. But we'll see what kind of production he can have in this defense. Greg Dortch was re-signed and was a great move alongside bringing back Zay Jones. Both guys are going to give some good depth to that receiver room. That is pretty much only Marvin Harrison Jr. And also, again, Greg Dortch playing fantastically, but you kind of need a true receiver too in that aspect. I don't really view Greg Dortch as that receiver too. Coming off of a Super Bowl season, they bring in Josh Sweat, and he can definitely make an impact in that front seven. And I am really happy, really excited to see what he can do in Arizona this season. They keep Baron Browning, who was a midseason acquisition last year, and another solid re-sign there. A lot of this was re-signs. And it was all around a fine offseason, including the draft as well. Walter Nolan and Jordan Birch are the main 2 defensive picks that they had, both D tackles, both going to make an impact on the interior defensive line, and both are going to be able to learn from Calais Campbell, and it's a really, really nice thing to be able to do. Will Johnson probably going to be the steal of the draft when everything is all said and done. Second round pick, had multiple people had him going in the first round. Some had him going in the top 10 at different points of the college season last year. He fell to pick 47 in large part due to knee issues. So if he can stay healthy, he's going to be a fantastic player for Arizona and again, a steal. And all around though, their success does kind of depend on Kyle Murray and how consistent he can be and how consistently they can get the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. If they can't do those things consistently, I'm not really sure where this team's ceiling is. If they can, their ceiling, again, not really sure. They're a team that is a full-on wild card, and in the division full of wild cards, I feel the NFC West is a really tough division. Arizona could definitely come out of nowhere and win it this year. but we'll see. The nice thing is, if Kyle Murray stays healthy, you're gonna have his athleticism behind center, and that's something that should not be taken for granted, no matter what. This is a bit of an overhaul for the Seattle Seahawks. A lot has changed this offseason, beginning with trading away Geno Smith and DK Metcalf, followed by releasing Tyler Lockett. This offseason, this offense is going to be looking quite different in Seattle. Going to be led by Sam Darnold. I think his production is going to take a bit of a hit from last season, but I still think he'll play fine. My main issue is that just that receiver room he's playing with in Seattle is quite bit worse than what he had in Minnesota. Not going to have Justin Jefferson this time around this season, but he's going to have JSN, who could definitely be a receiver one in the league. The question is, can you develop into it? And he kind of needs to do it soon. Cooper Kupp is on the back half of his career at this point. I don't view him as a receiver one, but he is still a really solid player and a pretty reliable receiver. And then to round out that trio, they have Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who has had his ups and downs since leaving Green Bay. But who knows? Seattle could be that destination for him. We will see. DeMarcus Lawrence was a big defensive acquisition that they had, and it was already a pretty solid defensive room. Bringing in DeMarcus Lawrence is only going to make things easier, but I would not be shocked if for at least the first month of the season, maybe less, maybe more, but at least the first month, DeMarcus Lawrence is going to feel not having Micah Parsons on the same side of the field as him, and we might see him take a bit to get back to that production that he had in Dallas, but he's still going to be a really solid player, and Leonard Williams is happy that DeMarcus Lawrence is in town. Where I have issues with their free agency, they more than made up for it during their draft. Gray Zabel, great pick out of North Dakota State. Really liked him coming out. Kind of wanted Miami to get him. Seattle got him instead. A great guy in the interior offensive line there for them. Nick Emanwari is going to be a nicely addition there to pair with that secondary that already has some really good players in Tyreek Woolen, Kobe Bryant, and Devon Witherspoon. And with the release of Noah Fant, it means that their second round pick, Elijah Ororo, is going to be having a massive role on this team. Most likely going to be the tight end 1. He's still listed as tight end 2 as of the recording of this, I believe. But he's going to have a massive impact. He's going to be a great player. Sam Darnold is going to go towards him quite a bit, I feel, because he is that kind of tight end that can make an impact no matter where he gets the ball. He's a very athletic playmaker. It's going to be a fun ways to see how they fit him into the offense. The final pick I want to mention is Torrey Horton out of Colorado State. He played well for the Rams in college, might need some time adjusting to the NFL, but he definitely has potential and could be a nice fit for that receiver room. I don't really view him as a receiver one in the NFL, more so just a really solid talent that can develop into a really solid receiver. Probably not receiver one worthy, but nonetheless, who knows? Time will only tell on him. This division is the wild, wild west, pun intended. No idea how most of these teams are going to play out this season. It could be anywhere from a fantastic Super Bowl contending season to a year where they're probably staring down a rebuild, and that applies to all 4 of these teams. But with Seattle, I don't even know what constitutes as a good season for them, so I'm not even going to really focus on hedging bets just yet. And lastly, the Los Angeles Rams. They had quite a quieter offseason than what I was expecting out of them. Most of their moves was to bring in depth pieces for position groups that they already have fantastic starters at. Their one big offseason move, they replaced Cooper Kupp with Davante Adams. And there is quite a fair argument that is the only move the Rams really needed to do. They had the eventual Super Bowl champions sweating in their own stadium, and they beat the Vikings in the wildcard round in what was a fantastic game by the Rams, and that front seven is going to be fantastic again this season. Stafford seems to be dealing with something during training camp, but he's also one of those quarterbacks where you don't need him to be 100% practicing every single day. He can just practice every once in a while, and on Sundays he's going to play fantastically. And really only 2 of their draft picks stand out to me, those being Josiah Stewart and Terrence Ferguson. Stewart's going to fit in well with that very youthful front 7 that the Rams already possess, and he's going to make an impact in that linebacker room. Terrence Ferguson is a real interesting pick to me for one main reason, as this has potential to be one of the best tight ends Stafford has played with. And yes, Stafford never really uses his tight ends in that way, even dating back to his time in Detroit. But since joining the Rams, he's had Tyler Higbee and Colby Parkinson as his main tight ends. In Detroit, his 2 best tight ends he played with, or at least the 2 best seasons he had in Detroit, The tight ends for those years were Brandon Pettigrew and Eric Ebron, both in the early stages of Stafford's career. And I'm really interested to see how Stafford plays with a tight end that could be as dynamic as Terrence Ferguson can be. We might see Stafford all of a sudden take another gear up in his career, and it'll be really fun to watch. The Rams have only had one season under 10 wins since Stafford has been in LA, and that was the season he went down with injury. And because of this, the Rams are going to compete. They're going to be a potential Super Bowl contender. They could very easily could win the division once again. The Rams are going to be a threat of a team, and especially if that front seven keeps developing as the way it has been, the rest of the league is going to be on a watch for Los Angeles. Okay, so it's time to actually do the predictions for this crazy division that really, no matter which order of the four teams you have, I am saying that is a very fair prediction. That's how crazy this division is most likely going to be. But to begin, I have the Seattle Seahawks finishing last. I just don't trust Sam Darnold outside of Minnesota, and with the receiver room that they have, I'm really iffy on them. I think they'll still be a competitive team. They'll be in the running for a playoff spot come November and December, but it's going to be a tough season all around. This is not the same team they were last year. They really were the only team in this division to truly digress on paper. And of course, you can only look on paper for so many things. When the season rolls around, I could be completely wrong, and we see Seattle back in the Super Bowl contention talks. But to me, on paper, I feel like they're the only team that got worse, and thus they find themselves last in this division. Third place is the Arizona Cardinals. I was tempted to put them at second, but I just really couldn't find myself doing it. The Cardinals are one of those teams where I have no idea what they're going to do, so I'm going to just mentally say they're going to go 9-8 and see how that relates to the rest of the division. And to me, that's probably going to fit around third, give or take a win or two for the Cardinals. Maybe they finish with more like 7 wins, maybe they finish with 8. Nonetheless, I think all of that's just fine for third place in this division, and it's probably going to be a relatively happy season for Cardinals fans. If let me know down below if you're a Cardinals fan how you would feel about a 9-8-7 win season. But to me, I have them finishing third. Second was a very late decision to put the Los Angeles Rams as the runners up for this division. I do think they're the best team in this division, but I couldn't make it so every single division winner was the same as last year's. I feel like that wouldn't be accurate at all, and it would be very disingenuous, although this kind of is more disingenuous. But I do really feel like the Rams are going to be able to compete. Do have them as a potential Super Bowl contender this season, but it's just Stafford being banged up in training camp. How is that going to play into the rest of the season? Who knows? We will see. And the rest of the team, mainly the offensive side, it has more question marks than the defense, and going to be a little fun to watch there, see how they perform. Which means that lastly, I have the Niners coming back and bouncing back just fine, winning the division. I knew I needed to put a team to go worst to first in these predictions. The Niners, I feel like, are the best bet at doing that. It was a really tough year last year, and from the jump with Christian McCaffrey's Achilles and his injuries and whatnot. I think he'll be healthier this season. Even if he plays 10 games, I think that'll be enough for the Niners to be in division conversation and be able to compete for that division. So at the end of the day, I think they do still have a team there from the returning members is to be able to win this division. But again, it is a division of chaos. It's a wild west. Any one of these four teams, I could see winning this division. I could see all of these teams finishing within a game of each other. I really don't know. This was by far the toughest division to predict, but those are my thoughts on it. And thank you all for tuning in. Preseason is here. The regular season is right around the corner. Quickly, I'm going to say, if I do live play-by-plays for every single primetime game, every single Miami Dolphins game, and a few games there sprinkled in between, I'm already going to say this, I have like 5 games I plan to call for week 1. So, if that's something you enjoy, just stop by for a few minutes during the streams. Is really appreciated. See you all next time. Have yourselves a damn good one. Peace.